everybody, this is Freddy with FreddyCanFly, and in today's video I wanted to do just something real quick and simple. I've got a OMP M2 version 2 sitting here. Just popped this one out of the box, and I want to check to see if the swash plate is actually level right out of the box. If so, or if not, rather, let's see how far off it may be or how it may affect flight, because I have taken a couple of these out of the box. Literally did base programming, took it out, fly it, and it flies like a dream. However, that doesn't mean the setup is perfect, so I want to see just what that's going to look like. So I went ahead and taken off the canopy. I do have like a semi-charged pack on here. You'll want to go ahead and get out 1.5 little hex driver. Pop out your Jesus bolt that's right. It pins the hub to the main shaft. And then what I found was really useful, instead of ball link pliers, because I didn't have a set of like the really small mini ones, is I just took a little set of like needle nose pliers, and ever so gently on the linkage arms, you can kind of just twist them and they'll pop right off. Do not damage them, okay? But go ahead and you can do that. And again, guys, this is right out of the box. So all I've done so far is I've taken off the Jesus bolt, removed my links. I'm going to pop off the main rotor. And then if you would like to, so to the best of my knowledge, at least from what I found, I haven't been able to find like an OMP branded swash plate leveling tool. I could be wrong. But I went ahead and picked up this little guy. This is for the, it's an Oxy brand. I think it's for like the Oxy 3 or something like that. But I had found that this fits absolutely perfect. It not only fits the main shaft perfect, but it also fits the 3 pegs of the swash plate, so we can check for our level. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, guys, is if you haven't seen before the out-of-the-box review on this, go ahead and check that out. Also, if you have not watched my video on how to enter and exit your programmable menus, watch that first. Because what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the servo centering menu that's provided within our programming here. And we're going to check to see if our swash is level. If it's not, we can talk about how to make the adjustments needed. And then just make this, you know, you want to get the best performance possible you can out of this already amazing flying machine. So let's dig into it, guys. I'm going to try to get a little bit of a better angle on the swash for you. We'll get her powered up and let's check that swash. Okay, guys, so now we've got a little bit of a closer look at the machine, at the swash. Please forgive me again, it's a micro heli, so on the bench work can sometimes be a little bit hard to film, but I think you guys are going to get the gist of this. Now, I wanted to make this video for a couple of reasons. Reason one is, well, I'd like to see if my product is, you know, as advertised, ready to fly and whatnot. But also I had discovered something that had me just scratching at my head for a long time, and it kind of became really frustrating for me when checking some of these other ones for level swash, because I couldn't seem to get it right, but I think I finally figured it out. So this is going to be helpful to any of you OMP users out there, especially if you're checking for level swash, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead. I've removed the main rotor. Let's go ahead and let's power up and get my radio over here. Now, as always, a couple of things we're going to want to follow. Now, again, full disclosure, guys, if you watched my setup video for this using the Spectrum radio, I talked about during the setup, when you set up your flight modes and everything, you do want to make sure you have throttle hold, right? Always make sure you have that on before plugging in. Also, this machine is designed to have self-stabilization mode in your normal flight mode, and it's always on whether you're in throttle hold or not. So if you plan on using self-stabilization mode, you want to make sure that when you initialize the machine, you do it in as level of a surface as possible. And there's a reason for this, because you're going to notice it's going to alter my readouts, but I'm going to show you a quick way around it so that you can make sure you are getting a true swash plate reading, okay? So I've got throttle hold enabled, so the machine can't wind up on me. Let's go ahead and plug in and let it do its startup sequence here. Takes just a couple of seconds. Kind of zoom out a little bit for you. Okay, So right now I'm in throttle hold, I'm in my normal flight mode, so self-stabilization is in theory active even though I have no throttle control, right? Now, right out of the gate, just for the heck of it, this swash plate leveling tool should tell me how level my self-stabilization initialization was, but I'm not going to check it right away because we don't even know if the swash is level in the first place. So, what we're going to do, make sure we're in throttle hold, make sure your throttle stick is, I'm going to go ahead and set mine at half. So if you go over to your radio, you can either go into like your throttle or pitch curve and just set like a flat 50 curve. Or for me, on the front of my Spectrum radio, it tells me like 50 in, 50 out. So my stick is at half, my throttle hold is on. I'm going to come over here with my little, just using a 1.5 hex tool here. Hold down our set button for 3 seconds. Again, if you're not familiar with this, watch the video I made on how to enter and exit your programming and everything. But let's see, 1, 2, 3, boom. And then as always, we're going to cycle all the way through until we get to the one that says Servo. So let's go through. A couple of pushes. Take your time if you need to. Here we go, Servo. Okay. Now this menu is for centering the servos. And if you guys are familiar with my method of setting up the swash and everything, I take one servo and I make it as 90 degrees as humanly possible by either A, moving around the servo arm, and B, adding in the electronical subtrims. I don't worry about the other two servos at this time. What I then do is I make up my 3 linkages and I make them exactly the same length. This one specifies in the manual that the gap between the plastic ends should be 10 millimeters, right? So I made all 3 linkages exactly 10 millimeters. Take in mind the orientation of how everything snaps on and all that jazz. And then once that's done, guys, all I have to do is put my swash leveling tool on, and then I'll just subtrim these front 2 servos down so that the elevator, let's say I use my elevator as my key servo, my elevator will be at dead 90 with a 10 mil gap on this link. So in theory, all I have to do is put a leveling tool on and slowly raise each servo one at a time until it touches the bottom of my leveling tool. You should now have all 3 servos in sync at 90 degrees, all linkage rods at 10 millimeters. You have a perfect setup. Now if you need to adjust the center position of the swash, let's say it's too high or too low, you can turn all 3 linkage rods evenly. You go 2 turns, 2 turns, 2 turns, 4 turns, 4 turns, 4 turns, whatever. Everything should still remain the same because you built your foundation first. So I've got a lot of videos on what I call setting up the swash with the master servo and things like that. But anywho, guys, so if for any reason your swash plate is not level, use that method and let's make sure our machine is correct. Now, be careful not to disturb or bump any of your controls, because in this menu, your rudder, aileron, and elevator will move each individual servo. You have like a channel 1, 2, and 3 going on, okay? So I haven't touched anything. I'm going to drop my tool on. Now again, guys, this particular machine has not been adjusted at all. I just popped this out of the box. I've done this several times with many of them. I've got like a whole bunch of these things floating around over here, but here we go. Anyone familiar with a swash leveling tool, all you know is we're looking for any gaps of light underneath any of these. Let's take us a peek here. And holy shit. I apologize. Holy heck, that is perfectly level. I don't see any gaps of light. The elevator looks ever so slightly, I mean, we're talking like, I'm not a mathematician, but like 100,000ths of, it feels like I could maybe slide one piece of paper under the back, if that. But the front 2, perfect, solid. Okay, so what does that tell me? That tells me that A, whatever they do with these OMP Helis at the factory to set them up seems to be somewhat uniform, because almost every single one I've done, I've always had at least one of the 3 servos just ever so slightly off. It's not 110% flawless, guys. However, it flies as though it is. But in doing just a simple bench test like this, I'm going to go ahead and rule it out now. I don't feel like there's a need for you guys to purchase a swash plate leveling tool for this machine. Unless you have a crash and you have to repair a servo or something, then yes. But out of the box, I feel like this thing's reliable. I've taken several of them out. I've test flown many of them, and they all almost yield exactly the same result 99.9% of the time. So I'm in love with it. I can't even believe it. I am at a loss for words. So one thing I want to talk to you guys about, though, we had talked about the self-stabilization feature and how it can mess with your readouts, okay? So let's say right now we're happy as can be. We've got our level swash plate. Maybe we did have a crash and we're doing some repair work and whatnot. We just went ahead and used the master servo that I use, method, if you will, to go ahead and re-level out our swash. Okay? Now we're satisfied. Well, what we're going to do next is we're going to put on the main rotor and go into our next menu, which is pitch. And this is going to let us set our full positive and full negative range. Here's the problem I ran into. Right now I'm in normal mode. Swash plate is perfectly level. Throttle hold is on. Okay, take in mind that that's very important. Throttle hold on. I'm in normal mode. Watch what happens when I actually move. So I put the main rotor and everything back on, went to put my pitch gauge on, but when I go into the pitch menu, my swash plate would move. And I'm like, what the heck? I just leveled everything. Come back, check it, it's level, put the main rotor on. I did it like 4 times. It got frustrating as all heck. So what I realized is this. So just to recap, guys, we're in normal mode. Throttle hold is active. And my collective stick is at 50 in, 50 out, or halfway, okay? I'm going to press the set button into the pitch menu, and watch. You're going to see my swash plate change. It's very minor, but let's see now if I can try capturing this for you guys. Let's see. You can see that the swash plate moved. To show it to you, watch this. I'm gonna leave it in throttle hold, but I'm gonna toggle into idle 1. See the swash move? Stabilization mode, idle 1. Stabilization mode, idle 1, right? So, what the heck's going on right there? Well, when I initially plugged in my machine in normal mode, even though my throttle hold was on, my bench probably is not perfectly level. It probably has some flaws here and there. Maybe the machine, maybe the landing skids aren't perfect. So what's happening is when I'm exiting the servo menu, because the servo menu has all the gyros off. But when I get into this pitch menu setup here, the gyros are back on, and it's entering back into self-stabilization mode, and so it's tilting back to where it initialized. So that's giving me a false pitch readout. It took me forever to kind of just have this click in my mind and go, oh my gosh, that's it. So, real quick guys, when you're setting up your full collective pitch range as well, just a little bonus for you, that way we don't have to make a whole nother video about it. Switch into your pitch mode, get the main rotor on, but with your throttle hold active, go ahead and turn off self-stabilization mode. Kick it into idle 1 or even idle 2, whichever you prefer. You'll notice your swash will then center back out. And the most important thing to check for is that you have a level collective range travel. Boom. That swash plate does not move. That tells us that using the master servo method that I use for setting up my foundation tells you that it's right. And the reason why is because when these 3 servos travel, none of them go astray. They're perfectly in sync. Guarantee you right now this OMP machine is going to fly flawless. So that's kind of it for today, guys. You know, go ahead and exit your programming, finish doing your setup, go out and give it a flight. I just wanted to make a quick video because I keep getting asked by a lot of people, how good does this thing actually fly out of the box? Is it worth the money? You know, should I stick with my blade machines? Yada, yada, yada. Again, as of today's date, I don't see any reason to purchase any other micro machine out there, guys, besides this. If you are a V-bar flyer, they do have the logo, what is it, the 300, which is basically identical to this, but it's got a V-bar. That's the only other recommendation I'd have, but this machine, absolutely flawless. Yes, it is perfectly flyable right out of the box. The swash plate is level. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, Freddy can fly, so can you.